we must find a way to control the influence of foreign television
Content
on domestic football. A lot of people who are not averse or who are ignorant to what is happening in the world would be opposed to it. I'll give you an example. I lived in the UK for many years, and my family, part of them are in the UK. And I'll tell you one thing, the UK, do you know you watch more English Premier League in Ghana than you would watch when you are in the UK?
True.
Why? Because there's no English football, EPL, on domestic free-to-air television.
Channels, yeah.
They won't sell the rights, the free-to-air rights in their country, but they will sell it abroad. What does it mean? He will not give it to his country, but he's giving it to you to take your audiences away from you. So you also have to react. Nigeria, for instance, has reacted. I had a discussion with Alhaji Shehu Diko, who was then the head of the Nigerian Football League for many years. I had a lot of discussions with him, and that helped him in putting forward this proposal where now in Nigeria, when you buy foreign content by law in the country, they put it before Parliament, and Parliament passed it. By law, if you spend 100 cedis in buying foreign television rights, you have to spend 30% of that 100 cedis to buy local content. So that would help develop local football. Why must we take all the money from a continent that is supposed to be poor, give it to the foreign leagues, continue to make them rich, continue to dominate us in all spheres of life? Then we will focus our attention there and we'll kill ours here. There must be laws. They have laws to protect their industry. We must put in laws in this country to protect the industry in this country. Not only the industry, to protect jobs, to protect the youth and everything. Look, the other day I was doing CAF Champions League work here, and I looked at the production crew of about 60 people who are producing the matches. They have been put to work because of football, because of African football. I looked at the bars in Kumasi who had become bubbly because of that match that I was part of organizing. They are in jobs. I looked at the hotels. Even in the production crew alone, a whole hotel was full. Look at the teams that would come. Look at the supporters that would travel and come. The hotel industry was bubbly. Talk about the taxi drivers. Talk about the nightclubs that would be booming that night. All of these things are industry that we must take seriously. We should not just take football as a child's play, as if, we are doing maybe the sports industry a favor. It's a business, and it has got a local industry that thrives on it. We should look at it as a concept where we can grow things and make things happen. I'm so frustrated a lot of times when I see people, they say, oh, we spent 600,000 on the blaster, and you are complaining. Go and see what the others are doing. Morocco is becoming Morocco. It's becoming known in the world today because of the money their country is spending. I think that we come from a concept where we have to expose a lot more people to what is happening globally so we can get to understand the impact of what we say. That does not mean that there shouldn't be accountability where monies are spent on be it national team, be it domestic leagues, and we must have strategies to protect our domestic leagues. Which strategies do we talk about? And I talk about this thing very, very passionately. When I was young and I used to enjoy Ghana football and still do, was because why? A lot of the footballers who were then playing, let's say, would be playing for Kotoko or Hearts or whichever club, had two jobs. They had one job with the country and another job playing for the teams. For the club. So they were not eager to leave the country. I was so sad this year when I saw that almost 10 Ghanaian players had left for Rwanda. Previously it was Ethiopia, Tanzania, Zambia, Sudan, stealing our players. Now,
Kuwait.
Now it is Rwanda taking players away until such a time that we go back to this concept. Because I say this, when a footballer sees that there's no life beyond the football is played, after 35 years, they don't earn so much. Because most of the teams, all the teams in Ghana today are owned by individuals. It is individuals that are funding, are paying for the kids of people or Ghanaian youth to become who they are. The state must support them. It must not be a one-man effort. Those days, when somebody is even playing in the domestic league, he's employed by the police, the army.
Yeah.
And Ali Daara, for instance, was employed by fire service.
Yeah.
So was Sam Johnson. A lot of them were employed by Bank of Ghana. All of these state agencies had some way, somehow, something to do with sports recruitment when they recruited every year.
There was Gapoha, there was New Plan Stars, there was Aquatex.
Exactly. So these are some of the things that we must go back to. Otherwise, we have no fighting chance.
But times have changed. Why would you say we should go back
we
to
should,
that?
no, I say...
Because companies these days no longer want to be heavily involved.
No. I'm saying state institutions.
State institutions, yes. For instance, we had Gapoha, which was that, was it what? There was also Gihawk.
Yes.
Many of these companies,
they folded.
There was Power Stars,
yes,
the electricity company of Ghana.
Yes.
All these people, they've now folded. They don't want to invest in the game anymore.
They have to, because they are state institutions, one. And a lot of them also recruit for their own good. They have their own organizational games. They recruit sports people. Part of the sports people must be recruited, must be some footballers, must be some athletes, must be some boxers, so that the player knows that, one, I'll get some salary from, let's say, if I'm playing, I work with the police, I'll get my salary from the police. Number one, I'll get some salary added on to maybe from Haas or Kotoko. Then finally, when I retire from football, I'll also have a full-time job to fall on and then have a pension. So I think that not only should government change its strategy, it must have a strategy for this. Otherwise, our domestic leagues will die and it will be on their heads. Then secondly, then secondly, we look at the concept. The footballers must also consider this. You want to go to Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya.
With all due respect to these countries, though.
Yes, with all due respect to them. They want to go there. After 2-3 seasons, they come back home and they don't want to play in the domestic leagues again. Few years, after some few years, you see them saying, they played for the national team and they are now poor. Because when you came back, you didn't want to play in the domestic league again. Number two, you didn't take the decision to want to be with one of the state agencies. So when you retire, you have a job to fall on. And even when you retire, for a footballer, you retire between 32, 35. From then up to the time God takes you away, let's say you turn 80, who would be looking after you? But when you have a job with the state agency, after you retire from active footballing life, you go back to your job. And after you retire from that job, you have a state pension to fall on. I think that footballers must reflect, our governments must also reflect, our sports ministers and the rest must also look towards this direction in a way that would help us change the trajectory and bring Ghana football to the top.
Have you put up some like a proposal kind of and submitted to people in authority to consider these things you're saying?
A few times, yes, I've shared some of these ideas, and I know that
verbally or written?
Verbally.
Okay.
But people have also written, thanks to some of these things I've said, people have also written that and presented it to government. Okay. And I hope that this thing is taken seriously.
Okay.
I don't care whether it's the NPP or the NDC, it must be done. It is a duty. It is not as if they are doing a favor. It is the duty of government to provide for the youth of this country, and they must do the needful to protect this industry that has got a trickle-down effect on jobs in the country and even stability of the country. If you have an idle youth They will go on demonstrations. If you have an idle youth, they will go, doing things that are not supposed to be right. It is government's responsibility towards its youth. It is not a favor.
It is not a favor. I want to come back because the conversation took a turn.
Yeah.
I'm coming back. At what point did you receive a call to come and work as communication director of the Ghana Football Association? And how was that moment like?
Well, I had received maybe 6-7 calls prior to me accepting. Yes, a lot of the times. 4 times by Randy Abe. On days he will visit London. I'll meet up with him. We'll have a conversation. Ibrahim, I think you should come back home. You've done your bit in the UK. I think you should make an impact back home. He made that overtures towards me maybe about 4 or 5 times. President Kwesi Nyantakyi also made overtures like that towards me maybe 2 or 3 times. And may his soul rest in peace. Jordan Anagbla also did that maybe twice when he meets me with Mr. Abu Sondoko, who I see as my senior brother. He will meet me and make these overtures towards me. And at a point in time, I felt that what they were saying made sense. After I felt I'd achieved or I'd seen everything I have to see at the BBC, because after the 2010 World Cup, after I'd done the opening match and the final match of Africa's first World Cup, I thought...
Were you the commentator for this match?
Yes, I was the co-commentator.
The color commentator.
For these...
How many years did you work with the BBC?
Close to 9 years.
Eh?
Yeah.
Wow, they paid you well. You were making good money out of BBC.
Muftar, there's one thing that I did not look too much to. That is money. I had the passion to do the job. Even if I was given the opportunity to do the job for free, I would have done it. But I would have to say the money was good for me. It was good for my career. And most importantly, it was good for my learning experience.
Were you at the BBC when you set up Ghana Soccer Net?
Yes.
How did that come? How did the Ghana Soccer Net journey begin?
Well,
I'll come back to the FA.
Yes.
We need to talk about the FA.
I was a duty editor on the website. So the duty editor means, when, it's a day, you become the one that commissions the story from all the correspondents across the continent. You edit the stories, you publish the stories and the rest. So I did that shift a lot of times. And I realized that there were many, many Ghanaian stories that were not making the online space. And at that same time, a lot of young Ghanaian journalists, sports journalists, were coming up to me, we need a job, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I thought that, look, I needed to plug the gap by creating an opportunity for young Ghanaian journalists to aspire. So I could teach them what I've learned. So I started it. I started it on the eve of the 2008 African Cup of Nations being hosted in Ghana. It was commissioned, or it was launched by Emmanuel Adebayo in his house in London. And I remember clearly on the 24th of December 2007. So that was where it started, and it grew. Now it's a global brand.
It's a global brand.
I remember.
We heard that you've sold it.
No, I've not sold. I've sold part of it. You've sold shares of it. Yes.
It's cool.
Oh. We've sold parts of it.
But you're about to share a story. You said, I remember...
the owner of Right to Dream Academy.
Tom Vernon.
Tom Vernon. He called me one day and said, Ibrahim, I've been thinking about it. Do you know the number of journalists you have trained? A lot. Everywhere I go, somebody will say, oh, he trained me. I met someone in London. He was a journalist. He's a journalist. He met Rahman Osman in London at one of the events. He said, you are the right to dream of sports journalism in Ghana. And I reflected on it and I said, oh, that might be true, because if you look at the impact, with humility, we've made on sports journalism generally, in the culture itself, from what news is covered, how news is covered, into developing the human resource itself and creating an industry around it, you would say that you've done a lot. I'm very, very proud to say today that there are a lot of thriving websites, news websites that have followed after our footsteps. There are lots of others who've gotten employed.
You've created many websites?
Yes, many. Ghana, Nigeria, everywhere. And I'm sure that...
You have websites in Nigeria as well?
Nigeria, Kenya.
Nigeria Soccer Net is your own?
Yes.
I see.
There's also Nigeria football, but Muftau, there's a lot more to come. I promise you.
There's Football Ghana, there's
Kickoff Ghana.
There's Ghana Guardian.
Yes, there are many. There are many. But the thing is that you find the need that there are lots of Ghanaian journalists who would not have the opportunity to work with the guys like you, Joy FM. Maybe they are not ready, maybe they are ready. But some of them can pass through our hands. They can come to Joy FM subsequently. Not only that, but some of them have become top people in the country. Your former editor, for instance, Ridwan Asante.
Yes.
He was with us when we started from day one. In fact, he's part of the co-owners of Ghana Soccer Net.
Patrick Akoto.
Patrick Akoto, who was then the communications director of Mediema, is now with the Ghana Football Association. He's also with us. Aminu Shado was one of our journalists. Sheikh Tawfiq, and many, many, many others. Some of them have gone to TV3, FSIN, and co, and a lot of them. Even Sadiq Adams.
Yeah, yes. I remember.
All of them.
I remember at the point they even say you have hired me for. I am the only person you haven't hired. You haven't hired me.
I'll hire you soon. Joy FM, be warned.
That means that the money you are bringing, Kwesichu will have to.
Kwesichu will be ready. Because our muscles are getting stronger.
So I have to come back to the Ghana Football Association. How would you describe the journey with the Ghana Football Association?
I'll say number one, a great opportunity to work at that level. It gave me a new challenge for me to aspire to it, with lots of challenges because number one, at that time we came in, the internet had blown up already. There were more than 100 radio stations, and all radio stations have at least 2 sports shows a day. And for Ghana, sports means, and by the research I conducted, 99.7 of the content on Ghanaian media outfits, be it online, radio or television, is football.
99.7?
Yes.
Joy FM?
Yes. Sports, so obviously the biases is there, but also, I also found out that at that same time, there was a growing number of merchant journalism. What I mean by merchant journalism is that, because Ghana had become so successful in football, there was a fight for who would lead the federation, whether directly or indirectly, and that created an opportunity for, some journalists to make it a career path of attacking, so they could make a name and all of that.
Are you suggesting that journalists chose a career path by attacking officials of the Ghana Football Association because they wanted to make a name?
I'm not saying all.
Some.
80% of the Ghanaian journalists then were very, very decent people who were committed to their work. But let me just be blunt and say the truth. One of your colleagues, Countryman Songo, had entirely built his career on attacking Kwesi Nyantakyi or the Ghana Football Association. That's the truth.
But this is not really fair, because before Kwesi Nyantakyi became the president of the Ghana Football Association, Countryman Songo was a journalist.
He was a journalist.
Countryman Songo was running commentary for Joy FM, for Love FM in Kumasi, and even until Asampa FM came into the space, Countryman Songo was one of the top-notch commentators in this country before Kwesi Nyantakyi became president.
I disagree with you, Muftar, respectfully.
Maybe.
And I'll say, I'll tell you one thing.
This is not a countryman Songo conversation.
No, it's not a countryman Songo conversation, but let me put it on record that it was quite telling that your company had to go to court a lot of times because of him. How many times had Kwesi Chum gone to the chief imam at 4 a.m. to go and beg Kwesi Nyantakyi to take away his cases out of court? That was how gory it was. So he made it a point to do a program that specifically attacked Kwesi Nyantakyi, whether rightly or wrongly. And I think that that was a bad precedent for sports journalism in the country. It is right that officialdom are questioned, but it should not become a stock in trade.
Okay.
There must be balance. There's no way. You can be biased in journalism as long as you say, I am biased. You can't be.
Songo says he's biased. So why is it a problem?
He didn't say that. He claimed
he mustn't necessarily come out and tell the whole world that I am biased.
No. But journalism says you can be biased, but you must state it. So you come clean. But you will not say that.
He probably might have stated
who are there? When somebody disagree, you didn't feel like
he probably might have stated it, but you never heard him. He probably might have stated that he's biased, but you never heard him.
I heard him.
You did not hear him say he's biased. Does not mean that he never said that he's biased.
No. I listen to him regularly. I do media monitoring.
Hang on, Sannie. If you listen to the person religiously, as you say,
yes,
why would you continue to listen to someone religiously if the person is doing something biased against you?
Because I was then the director of communications of the Ghana Football
So you had interest in the content he was churning out,
yes,
so that you could use that to better the institution.
No. Not with him. With him, we always knew what we would get. But with people like you, with people. Lots of people, very, very decent people at Joy FM, at Asempa, for example.
I also wrote stories too.
Yes, exactly. But when you write the story, I don't take it personally because I know that you won't be one-sided in your thought. Yeah. You would call to ask, what is your thought about this thing? Yeah. You won't be one-sided. And I appreciate that. I appreciate a lot of people. For instance, PJ Mose, he was tough, but he would call you for your side of the story. I appreciate somebody like Wallace, for example. He'll be tough, he'll be good on you when you do good, and he'll be tough on you when you go wayward. I appreciate that. But the fact that you make it a stock in trade, that even when you do well, he will say it's bad. An innocent, an innocent being like Kwesi Appiah, you call him respectful guy, somebody who's respected up and down this country, and you call him Nenche and all of that. It hurts. And for me, not only does it not hurt, but it also goes to the heart of what I say about journalism. Because at the end of the day, when I meet executives of the FA, for instance, what do they say? They are your people. And in truth, they are my people. Because it's my trade, it's my job. And at that time, it was also bringing me income. Because I made monies from my sports journalism. So if I saw something that was going to be negative towards my trade, I have all the right to call it out.
There was a point people actually said.